What's up guys, it's Rowan here from Artist Smart TV. In today's episode, I'm sitting down with Ruby, one of our Pathfinder alumni. And we're going to be digging in and finding out what Ruby's journey looked like across Year 12 in terms of the challenges she experienced and then the strategies that she used successfully to do incredibly well in terms of her ATAR, all while she was balancing the responsibilities as a school captain at her school. So welcome, Ruby.
Hello, thank you.
Now, just to get to know you a little bit better, what school did you go to?
Yeah, so I went to Gosford High School, the Central Coast.
Amazing. And what subjects did you take during years 11 and 12?
Yeah, I did a lot of humanities. So I did business studies, legal studies, society and culture, drama, English advanced, and I also did I started doing the English Extension 1 and English Extension 2. Okay,
and we can come back and talk about that because I think there's a bit of a story there. So definitely a big humanities sort of bent.
Yeah.
Now, how did you end up going at the end of the well, actually, before I ask that, what was your goal at the start of Year 12, what you were hoping to do academically?
Yeah, well, in Term 4, I didn't really have anything in mind. I wasn't really a huge goal setter, or I didn't think I was a huge study nerd either. Like, I had these big goals of what I wanted to do when I was older. So I didn't quite have a clear picture, but I remember coming to one of your workshops, I think up at like Tuggerah or somewhere, and you brought that up, how, it's important to have that ATAR, and I thought about it and I thought like, oh, maybe an 85, maybe an 87, that would be good enough, I think. So yeah, that was it.
And then how did you end up going at the end of the journey?
Yeah, I blew it out of the park, getting 93.8.
So congratulations. How did that feel when you got that, and given the fact that it was so well above what you had thought possible for yourself?
Yeah, I was just ecstatic, and I think was able to take a moment of reflection and actually be proud that no, I did deserve that, and I really worked for that, and it wasn't like that I should have gotten an 80 or yeah.
Now you've obviously from the conversations we've had decided to take a gap year.
Yeah.
I think part of that has been inspired by still trying to get a sense, is that right, of what you might want to do?
Yeah, for sure. I think anyone can in high school struggles with especially if you haven't gone to uni and don't know what the courses are like. So I thought this year would be really good to do some more research and really kind of figure out what I'd do at uni, yeah. I
guess the great thing is, given how well you did, you've got a lot of options that you can pursue as well. So I think that's one of the great things when you don't know what you want to do. It's very much about, well, how do I maximise my options? Which I think was the conversation I was having in that workshop. All the way back in the day at Tuggerah. Which
I think I was in Year 11 then as well. Yeah.
That's right. It was a little while ago. So I'd love to dive in and just sort of touch on a couple of things that you experienced over the course of your Year 12 journey. I think the first thing was at the start of Year 12, you did make a number of changes to your subjects. And I think a lot of students grapple with that. It's the choice of, do I drop some subjects? Yeah. And do I take some extension units? What was going through your mind? What were the changes you made to your subjects at that point?
Yeah, well, I think in Year 11, I changed 3 subjects at the start of the year. So I was doing modern, I changed to legal, I was doing visual arts, I changed to business studies. Visual arts I changed because I didn't want all those major works because I was already doing drama and society and culture, and I was doing maths, but then I dropped that completely. But yeah, in Year 12 I really found because I was doing extension 2, and just having 3 major works was a lot to commit to, and I didn't want to spread myself too thin, so I thought that I'd drop extension 2, and then I just found with extension 1 that I wasn't really as interested in the topics and the themes of what we were learning, and I thought I could better, use my time and use my energy on the subjects that I really enjoyed and go well at those, yeah.
So in other words, you were doing 3-unit English in Year 11, you stepped up to 4-unit English, and then you dropped 4-unit English and 3-unit English, if I get that right.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's interesting because I know English is something that you're quite passionate about. Clearly to even think about 4-unit English sort of suggests that. So it sounds like a key driver then was workload management in terms of managing your workload, and then a little bit of strategic thinking on, well, if I have more time, where can I put that in some of my other subjects? So what impact did dropping 4 Unit and 3 in English have on the workload for you?
Well, it was really good in that sense. I could have a lot more free periods, so like using my time at school more effectively was really helpful. And also just in terms of getting feedback from my teachers, I wasn't having to, have like 6 or 7 teachers that I'm trying to get feedback from, but just like narrowing that down was beneficial.
So how many units did you take going into your HSC?
I did 10.
So you took the risk
I did.
to go, okay, I'm going to do more work for less subjects?
Yeah.
Now, did that eventuate, or did you just procrastinate more?
No, I think it actually helped. In a lot of ways, but it definitely takes that planning and accountability and sticking to it, for sure.
And did it positively impact stress as well by dropping down, not doing the extra major work? Like, did it have implications for stress for you in a positive way?
Yeah, I would say definitely made things a lot more stressful trying to, balance all those subjects if there's less there. And
so it made it less stressful when you dropped them. So I just want to get clarity on that. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
It was a lot less stressful and didn't have to think about so many things that I had to do. But just, easier to plan.
That's, I think, a nice segue for sort of planning and getting into a study routine. Because I know when we first started working with you in the Pathfinder program as well, that one of your biggest challenges that you shared with us then was getting into a good routine for your study. What were you struggling most with at that time?
So obviously, getting things done and having all these things, whether it's like 2 weeks from now or like homework to do, actually having a physical plan, a physical schedule, rather than just kind of doing what I feel like doing or kind of doing things just before they're due, and really getting ahead of things and getting on top of things.
So prior to sort of coming into the program, it sounds like your approach with study was quite responsive, like reactive. It was like, oh, I've got that, I'll do it now because I feel like it. Oh, it's due tomorrow, better get it done. Was there a fair bit of last-minute-itis going on?
There was a little bit, I have to say. That was definitely not a good habit that I had.
Okay, and what was the impact of that? Like, why did you want to change? Were you starting to see some of the consequences of maybe not having a sort of routine and a plan for how you were studying?
Yeah, definitely. Leaving things to last minute does make it a lot more stressful. And then, when you leave things, you don't do as good a job. And then when I got my mark, I'll just kind of feel like, what do I do from here? I just forget about it and move on. But what the big thing to take from that was actually to use the feedback and improve it, even if it wasn't so good.
So then how did the Pathfinder program and working with Sarah, your mentor as well, help change that approach that you had from sort of being quite reactive and a little bit last minute, or at least not having a plan, to getting into a really solid routine?
Well, I didn't realise until the Pathfinder program that I actually really like organisation, and especially when we got our game plan, so it has the subjects at the top and then the weeks on the side. Mine didn't come in the mail because I started the program a bit later. So I just came up with my own on this huge piece of butcher's paper, and I just had so much fun because I'm also creative. Just being able to map it out and put in all my homework and assessments coming up. That was one of the biggest shifts for me in terms of creating that schedule and having that visual representation there that I can stick to.
And so what that does is putting in the big milestones in advance, right? So instead of responding to what's going on, you're like, all right, I've got an assessment here and I've got an assessment here, and then working backwards, what I should be doing is X and Y. So that sort of gives you the term game plan, as you called it, which is what we also call it here. How did that then translate, or what did you also do for then week to week in just what your study routine looked like? Because I think they go hand in hand, right? You've got the bigger picture plan of what you need to do, but then you've also got, well, how do I actually do that? Because that plan might have, well, I'm going to achieve all these things on each week. How did that translate, and what did you do to turn that into action each week in terms of your sort of weekly sort of study routine?
Well, my mentor Sarah talks about breaking up the watermelon. So you've got this big task or this big assessment, and really breaking that down into smaller bits. And so she really helped me with creating a weekly schedule in terms of time blocking when I would study, and also what days in the afternoon, like what subjects at what time I'd study as well. So I know when I came to that block of time, I could go to my game plan and see what tasks needed and homework needed to be done. But yeah, just having that from like Monday to Sunday. Also blocking out my free periods and what subjects I would study in those times. Really helped me on a day-to-day basis rather than thinking, oh, what should I study? What should I do today? It was already there for me.
So did that help reduce procrastination?
Yeah, it did a lot, especially having those specific tasks to work towards.
And how did you stay committed to the plan? Because I think planning is important, and it's obviously a big thing that we try to teach and support students with in the Pathfinder program, but then sticking to it's an entire other matter. Now, I guess first of all, did you stick to it? You created these weekly plans, you had the term game plan. Did you stick to them, and then if so, how?
I think for the most part I did. Obviously I wasn't perfect in any way, but with a game plan, just having that motivation of ticking it off and crossing it off.
Because you could physically see it, right? It was on your wall, is that correct?
Yeah, that's it. That sense of satisfaction from getting it done. And with the timetables, I think what I used was the Pomodoro method, just having that 25-minute block of I'm going to do what I can in this time, and then I have a 5-minute break and then come back, because I never got used to throughout high school studying for long periods or even for more than an hour. So just breaking it down into those short blocks helped a lot for me.
Now, I know one of the things that Sarah, your Pathfinder mentor, also did was helped you start setting goals. So I know we sort of talked about it, and how did Sarah help you sort of start to think about your goals?
Definitely made me think about, not just study goals and not just goals within school, but also outside, and having that that balance in a way of making sure you're taking care of your physical health and your mental health, and also spending time with family and friends. So it was using the SMART goal method was the best way that she encouraged me to have goals and stick to them throughout the weeks, and see that improvement. And
so was she keeping you accountable to them as well?
Yeah, she was really good in that way. When after our meeting, she'd be like, okay, if you want to send me a picture of your timetable, your schedule, or your goals, you can do that. And that would help me keep accountable for sure.
That's amazing. Now, how did the sort of sessions you were having with Sarah, your mentor, sort of help broadly, sort of keep your wellbeing really positive throughout year 12?
Well, I mean, Sarah was she's such a good mentor. She was just a really good encourager as well. And also something I remember she said is just about being kind to yourself as well. And it's really good to have a lot of expectations for yourself, but also just having that grace in a sense if you don't go as well as you'd like, So she was a really good supporter in that way, and, just keeping in mind, okay, well, I haven't got it now, I don't understand it now, what can I do to ask my teachers or to get that help and to improve.
Now, I know in your sessions with Sarah, you also dived into some of the nuts and bolts of exam prep. What were some of the strategies that you learnt there in preparing for exams, whether or not it was planning, whether or not it was prioritisation, memory retention? Anything come to mind that really stuck with you? I
mean, I just think about the breaking the watermelon down again, because no one wants to sit down and do a 3-hour paper just at home, for the sake of it, especially if you haven't, you don't know what the content is or the syllabus or what exactly it is that you're wanting to improve and work on. So I think it was, and really mapping that out into, what subject each day that I would submit feedback to submit a response to my teachers for feedback, and especially towards trials and towards the HSC, whether it was submitting you know, one question or two question right from the start of the term rather than, you know, closer towards the end of the term. That was super helpful in getting that feedback sooner and really breaking those past papers down, that when it comes to practicing papers, you know, doing it in 2 hours or doing like an English essay, I really had, prepared myself in that way.
What was the best thing about Sarah, your mentor?
Oh my goodness, there were so many things. She was just a great encourager, and not settling for less, but really going the extra mile as well, and being okay if you don't always get it right the first time, for sure.
Now, did you have study notes before the Pathfinder program, and if so, what did they look like?
Oh, I don't know if I did. I don't think in year 11, I don't think I had them. But yeah, coming into the Pathfinder program, those like study and summary notes were really important for that memorization. And
because you obviously do you did a fair number of content-heavy subjects as well.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you ended up creating notes.
Yeah.
Why and what did you learn in the program about how to do it so that it would help you for your exams?
Definitely having a clear structure and not just like writing anything on the page. And also even having like questions that I'd ask my teachers as well was really important to be thinking about. And doing summary notes in the afternoon was really good for me as like a visual creative person, to be able to kind of put more graphs in or put how I see this, you know, working out to make a lot more sense.
Now, one of the early events was the Opportunity Intensive, which was sort of the April, we typically run in the April school holidays. And in particular there we looked at university early entry programs. How familiar were you about university early entry before that program?
Yeah, not at all really, because I just kind of been putting it off because it was further down the line. It was at the end of, you know, school. I didn't really want to think about it at that time. I thought, why do we need to think about it? But that definitely provided so much more information about universities that I wasn't aware of.
I know you ended up applying and successfully for the Global Studies and Arts at ACU, so you successfully received an early entry offer for it, so well done. Yeah. Now I know you're still weighing up your options and maybe Melbourne is going to be the sort of the place you end up studying. How did Sarah support you in writing and crafting your early entry applications? Yeah,
she was really, really good for just helping me get that up and going. But, you know, obviously before it's like meant to be due.
So instead of doing it the night before, it was a little more proactive?
Yeah, that's it. So just kind of writing down a rough idea from some of our workshops where we looked at like the STAR method of having that story, and just kind of, you know, we'd send her a draft through, and then I think maybe in one of our sessions as well we really looked over it and she just gave me some really helpful feedback of how you can, you know, make it shine in a way, which was so helpful.
And what were some of the tips that you learnt from some of the workshops and the Opportunity Intensive on writing a strong application?
Definitely using like categorization and kind of numbers in a sense of seeing, you know, out of how many people were you accepted, or how much money did you raise, you know, and how those really do help your application like shine in a way, because it's not just like a general statement about you as a person or what you can do, but it really shows what you achieved.
Great, so being specific, focusing on outcomes as well, I think just to add a couple of sort of things to that, which is really cool. Reflecting on sort of the sort of, you know, journey throughout the Pathfinder program, what were some of your favourite sort of things that you did, learnt in the journey? I
mean, I really like the community, although we didn't have as many meetups or workshops in person.
As a result of COVID, regrettably.
Yeah. But we did have like an online group chat that we'd talk, and if some people had questions on different subjects as well, that was really helpful just to, you know, have people like you're doing this program alongside with, and also to help each other out. So I really enjoyed that. And yeah, even especially just the interactive side of the workshops and being able to ask questions and hearing also like what the other students thought or contributed, and like bouncing ideas off each other was really, really awesome.
And what was there a workshop or an intensive that stood out that was, you know, your favourite?
The only thing I can remember, I don't think it was with Pathfinder, but you did like a live, I don't know if it was like a Q&A, but a live session online for anyone to join. And one of the things you spoke about, because I think someone asked about motivation, and you talked about how that can't, you know, really be the drive for your study because motivation, in a sense, like fluctuates. So that was really, really helpful for me to just remember that, you know, I can't study based on how I feel, but yeah, it's just really knuckling down and getting into it.
Now, one of the final intensives we ran was the professional intensive, which was all about, you know, resumes, cover letters, interviews. Did you have a resume before that?
Our like careers teacher kind of, but that was like from year 10, so I did, but it was very old, outdated.
And so then, what did you learn in that intensive about, you know, the process of resume writing, and did you end up writing one? What happened?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of a fairly like fresh process because I'm still currently like applying for jobs and everything, and Sarah's also been giving me feedback. But yeah, having those clear headlines of, well, you know, if I haven't done, because I haven't had a lot of customer experience at work, but showing from my leadership experience or like my achievements or awards, what skills I've developed from those things and how that like can translate into, you know, a business setting. Yeah.
And so really it's about taking what you have done and then trying to translate that to showcase the skills that might be relevant for the role that you're applying for, which is amazing. What else did you learn at that intensive just about preparing for the world after school?
Yeah, well, I think with the cover letters, definitely having that sense of like personability of, you know, how did you connect to this business, and yeah, really showing what makes you different as a person, because they would get thousands of applicants all the time. So also that formality as well with interviews, that kind of workshop was really helpful, although a bit intimidating when you think about it, but just really preparing you for like what kind of questions they could ask and what are some important public speaking skills just in general to have in conversation with people, and when you network as well. I really enjoyed that networking session too.
Was there a career Q&A that you enjoyed and particularly, you know, something resonated with you?
I don't know what it was called, but there was like a kind of media and communications one. I know that Sarah was at as well. And I just really like the panelists there and them just like being raw with their stories and their experiences, although maybe their paths didn't always turn out, you know, how you thought. But still like going through that journey and knowing that, you know, careers aren't necessarily a pipeline and you will have multiple different careers in your lifetime, and skills you develop for one career can be used in a totally different industry as well. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, that session.
What would you say to other people thinking of joining the Pathfinder program?
I say do it. Like, it's so helpful in having accountability and having those practical workshops that you can really draw skills from and build that confidence in yourself as well, to know that, you know, it is possible to get those high marks even when you didn't think so, and just putting the work in really pays off.
And this is just a bit of a fun question. If you could take a time machine and go back to the start of year 12, what would you do differently?
Ooh, that is a tough question. Yeah, I definitely say not being afraid to, you know, hand in whatever I had in terms of drafts to my teachers, and like really even after class and in recesses going to them and getting that practical feedback from them right then and there, and really kind of separating myself from my draft in that, you know, it's not about me, it's not like a personal thing, this is, and it doesn't have to be good, but how can I just improve from this? And just having that open, that growth mindset of what can I do right from the start, I think would have been really good.
Do you have any other advice you'd like to share for Year 12 students going through the journey of HSC?
Yeah, I think also like sharing with your parents, what's happening, and also maybe even your study plan as well, your study schedule. So letting them know like, from this time, is it okay, I'm going to be studying? Because obviously you don't want to plan a study session that's like right in the middle of dinner or, a family event. And yeah, I think parents can be really, my parents were at least helpful in that way, and checking up on me and asking, how did your studying go? So yeah, I would say that's a great advantage as well.
How did you feel in terms of confidence when you headed into your final HSC exams compared to the start of the year?
Honestly, I felt a lot more calm, and I think some people have mentioned about me that I do have a bit of a quiet confidence, and I wasn't feeling super anxious or super stressed out because I know that, I had studied and I had prepared and I had put in the work as well. If I hadn't done all of those things, I probably would have felt a lot more freaked out and a lot more, I have no idea how this is going to go or what I'm going to do. Like regardless of, you have no idea what the question is, but still knowing the skills that I've learnt throughout this year is going to help, and what I've done to improve. So I felt a lot more confident at the end of the year for sure, going into my exams than at the start.
And so what did that journey look like in building confidence?
Definitely that consistency and that consistent practice over time. And that first draft isn't going to be good, but really working on that and improving that over the year. And not just, submitting your first assessment is your first draft, but that you've put in the work and that you can you're not going in blind, but you can kind of expect what skills you need to bring and how to answer the question as well.
So really it's a hard one, confidence. Like it's you've done the work, and by doing the work progressively, that builds the confidence rather than just something, changing overnight.
Yeah.
It sounds like it really was a process of just working at it.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose even at the end, I didn't think I had the confidence to get that mark, but it still paid off all that work.